Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Lady Raven.
Hurry, come on, come on.
Wait. I gotta tie my shoe.
No dad jokes, this is serious. Come on.
I'm sorry.
Dad, thank you. Thank you. This is literally the best day of my life.
I gotta go to the bathroom. I can leave you here in the seat.
I'm good, Dad.
Cooper,
Jamie.
what's with all the police trucks outside? The cameras everywhere, Jamie.
I'm not supposed to tell me.
Something happening?
Don't rat me out. You know the butcher? The freaking nut job that goes around just chopping people up? Well, the feds or whatever heard that he's gonna be here today. So they set up a trap for him. This whole concert is a trap. They're watching all the exits, they're checking everyone that leaves. There's no way to get out of here.
Somebody help me!
Dad.
I'm sorry, Riley, what was that?
Your daughter's never gonna forget this day.
You're kind of dope, right?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. This is Mike. Also with me, as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, concert goers. We should have had like some music playing in the background to make people feel like they're at a concert, but I guess it's too late for that. How the hell you doing, Mike? I'm doing all right.
Some roaring crowd noise. Doing well. We'll see how well I'm doing once we get into this movie, but it's okay. Also with us, it's Don and Ellie. What's up, Don?
Yeah, what's going on? Always happy to be here.
All right. This week we are covering the new M. Night Shyamalan movie, Trap. So if regular listeners recall, of what a handful of weeks ago we covered the first movie from his daughter. So it's a Shyamalan summer, I guess. So let's see. The synopsis off IMDb. A father and his teen daughter attend a pop concert only to realize they've entered the center of a dark and sinister event. All right, I guess that's vague enough not to give anything away. Josh Hartnett, his big return to the screen, at least like in a major role. So let's see what we thought about Trap. Venom, what are your general thoughts on Trap?
About a month ago, I deemed 2024 the year of the devil. And now, after watching Trap, I want to call 2024 the year of the police procedural, because we've gotten a lot of police procedurals this year. On this show alone, we've already reviewed Maxine and Longlegs, and now here we are with Trap, excuse me. Man, this movie, what can I say about this movie? This is a movie that I was on board for the first half of the film. First off, Josh Hartnett, I think, does a fine job. I know that I've read some people give some maybe negative feedback on his performance because of how dry his performance is. But ultimately, this man is a serial killer trying to fit into normal society. He's Dexter Morgan, for anybody who's ever seen the serial killer show Dexter. He literally is Dexter Morgan. He's a serial killer. He has an uncontrollable urge to kill. But he still wants to look normal. I mean, he's a firefighter. He has a wife. He has 2 kids. So Which did it better? Oh, my friends, Dexter did it so much better than this one. But I will say, Josh Hartnett's performance makes sense. There's one shot in particular in this movie that I absolutely love, and it's when he's talking to the T-shirt vendor. And this is actually in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything. But when the T-shirt vendor actually tells him what's going on with the concert, you see the look in his face. He retains the smile, but his eyes go dead. And that is just top-notch serial killer performance right there. That's him trying to not react to the news that, oh shit, all these cops are here for me, while still being friendly with this, total stranger that he just met. So that all fits. Probably the shining light of this movie is its sound design. I think the sound design here works so well. Obviously, the music that Lady Raven, or Salika Night Shyamalan, as she's known in real life. Yes, the singer in this movie, Lady Raven, is Salika Shyamalan, the daughter of M. Night Shyamalan. So this isn't my kind of music. This is kind of like that modern pop music that doesn't really do a whole lot for me. But the sound design here, they really capture the audio of being at a concert. Not necessarily watching a concert like on TV when you're watching a concert movie, but that sense of actually being there. And another thing that I love about the filmmaking here is that the performance on the stage is very rarely the focus of what's going on. Josh Hartnett and his daughter are the focus of what's going on, and we're hearing the music based on where their seats are in the 44th row on the floor. I've had floor seats in very similar sections like that, and it really, the reverb, they nailed the reverb and the echo and everything that you get in those big concert arenas. So really the only reason I would say this is worth seeing in theaters is for the sound design, and that's it. I would not recommend anyone rush out to the theater to see this. Now, for the first half of the movie, Josh Hartnett is a great psycho, incredibly intelligent, brilliant, problem-solving. He comes off as, just this, again, Dexter Morgan type, where he knows exactly what needs to be done at all times. But then the second half of the movie happens, and everything falls apart. Suddenly, Josh Hartnett turns into a little bit of an idiot. Like, I question some of the decisions that he made. And then for most of the third act of the film, M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, Salika, is actually acting. She's not singing. And this is where I lose it. I'm sorry, Salika. I'm sure you're a wonderful person, and I'm sure your acting's going to get better. But you were fucking terrible in this movie acting. Lady Raven, as a singer and performer on stage, was awesome. Another thing people should know, if you don't already, she wrote all the music in this movie. All the music in this movie is original music that she wrote specifically for this movie. She choreographed the dance moves. Like this girl should be a pop star, But then, like I said, once she starts to act, it's like, ugh. She comes off as that kind of, Nepo baby who maybe didn't earn what she's getting, because holy shit, her performance, on top of just questioning what is your end game with the plan that she had there. It's like, I shouldn't say that. That's a spoiler. But yeah, just questioning her motivations throughout the entire second half of the movie just really took me out of the film. Ultimately, the culmination is okay. We kind of get an ending. I mean, it's definitely left open-ended for the potential of a sequel. I really, really hope that we don't get a sequel for this movie. But, ultimately, Ariel Donahue, who plays Riley, Josh's daughter in the movie, Cooper. Josh Hartnett plays a firefighter named Cooper. She does fine. Like, she's not exceptional. Like, I'm not going to rave about her performance, but I think she's fine. Ultimately, no major performance in here other than Josh Hartnett is really anything to write home about. And yeah, of course, M. Night sticks his dumb ass inside of his movies and actually gives himself multiple speaking lines in this one, and much to my chagrin, but whatever. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but whenever I see the director in their own movie, it kind of takes me out of it. Like, it takes me out of the fantasy of the whole thing, of the fact that I could be watching a real life scenario. Even though that you've got name actors in it, other people that you recognize, something about seeing the director in a film, especially someone as recognizable as M. Night Shyamalan, it takes me out of it 100% of the time. So, directors, if you want to act, fucking act. If you want to direct, then direct. Don't do both, please. There are very few people out there. There's not many Ben Afflecks out there that can actually direct and act. But that's besides the point. Overall, I think this movie is pretty mid-range. It doesn't do a whole lot for me. Like I said, for the first half, I was on board. For the second half, I'm just waiting for the credits to roll so I can get the fuck out of the theater, because the third act of this movie just falls completely apart. Both the decisions of Josh Hartnett as the killer, his wife, and Lady Raven, they leave you scratching your head like, what the fuck were you people thinking about any of this? And, maybe I'm wrong. I've actually read some pretty positive reviews of this film, like some people who admit to being Shyamalan fans, basically saying that, they absolutely love this movie. I'm not going to say this movie is necessarily bad as much as the second half is flat out bad. But as a collective, it's not a terrible movie. It's got a decent setup. It's got a great performance by Josh Hartnett. Another issue I have with this movie is that they set up the profiler, this woman who's been hunting him. And then for the second half of the movie, she's a non-factor. It's like, you're the profiler, you're the one who's in charge of this investigation. But it's like, once they leave the arena, we see her one more time at the very end, like she's some kind of knight in shining armor, but total wasted character there. It's like all the scenes that should have been the profilers, they gave to the daughter, Lady Raven. Like that entire third act, everything with Lady Raven, that should have been the profiler. And they missed a major opportunity. Now, I understand that that's kind of cliche, to see the kind of final showdown between the serial killer and the profiler. But ultimately, same old would have been better than what we got here. M. Night took a chance, tried to do something different with, the police procedural in the third act. But in my opinion, it just fell flat. It left me leaving the theater very unhappy with this movie. And like I said, about the only thing I can really praise about this movie is Josh Hartnett's performance and the sound design. But like I said, it does not even get a mild recommend from me. If you're a gigantic police procedural fan, I would say check it out when it hits streaming. This is not must-see viewing in theaters by any stretch, despite the sound design being really, really great. So, middle of the road, leaning towards slightly cliche and boring. So, yeah, I'll leave my general thoughts at that.
All right. Dawn, how about your general thoughts on Trap?
Well, first of all, odd choice picking Ben Affleck as a person who can act.
I know, but I like his comedies more than his dramas. Like, I think he's absolutely brilliant in Dogma, but that's just me. I know it's just a personal opinion, so.
Well, I was going to say, if you were going to go for that, I figured you would have gone for Hitchcock, but.
Yeah, but Hitchcock, the thing is Hitchcock in every movie. That, it's kind of like Christian Slater. Christian Slater is Christian Slater in every goddamn movie. He just has a different name. Not to take anything away from Hitchcock. I love Hitchcock, potentially one of my favorite directors, and I do love his on-screen performances, but his on-screen performances are never as overzealous as M. Night's. So I think that was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, in that context, I see where you're going at. So, okay, with that out of the way, I kind of wanted to do that just because I don't want to talk about this. Yeah, there's very little about this that's for me. More thriller than horror, check. Crappy pop music instead of metal, check. Police procedural, check. Bloodless, very weak-minded thrills, check. Yeah, not a whole lot for me here. I will say, I remember last week us discussing what potential twist it was going to be. I'm so glad we didn't go through with our initial predictions, because I was kind of hoping it would not be the case where, the first half, it kind of clues us in that it's really him. And then, okay, it's like, oh, please don't let our predictions be true. Please don't let our predictions be true. And when it turns out that he is, the genuine serial killer, I mean, I'm sorry if that's a spoiler, but I was kind of glad about that. And it kind of did make the first half feel a little bit more intriguing because, we were wrong and it didn't go down the predictable route that we guessed before we've even seen it. So, I mean, yeah, it did kind of make the first half feel a little bit more intriguing, just, going off of a different route. But yeah, once it starts, him trying to, play cat and mouse with these people and try to get the upper hand, it's really not that interesting. I think the one location setup just doesn't really have much factor going for it. Feels very much like it could be like an anthology short or like a short film even, trying to pad out this cat and mouse game that's just, it's really not that interesting. And I mean, we get just a few snippets. I mean, like he was saying, the oh god, what's her name, the investigating detective that's trailing him.
Mm-hmm.
I really wish that the profiler, I really wish that we would have gotten more of that and then seen like more bits about him trying to going through his past and being more of like the genuine serial killer, maybe getting a little bit more scenes of him going after his past victims, or setting up like some more stalk and slash kind of sequences just to kind of change things up a little, because trapped inside this building, it's really not that intriguing once you start realizing it's it takes place in one location over one night, and you're not really leaving the boundaries there. You're set there, and it just drags on, and it doesn't really have the momentum or the energy or anything like that to really sustain its running time. It just feels a lot longer than it really is. I mean, for me, it felt like it really could have been trimmed down, like into like a short or an anthology segment or something like that about these police officers that know that they've got this serial killer trapped inside this building, and it's a cat and mouse game as to how they're going to capture him without alerting everyone, which really seems kind of stupid because I mean you realize that there really should have been more people in on the situation rather than I mean, unless I missed something or whatnot, there really should have been more security staff there that knew what was happening, and maybe not necessarily assisted, but like stayed out of the way and let them do their thing, so that way everything could go off without putting more lives in jeopardy. Like that really just seems like it should have been handled a little bit differently, or maybe wait until everything's over and then taking them in the parking lot or something. But I mean, I can't, judge it on what I wanted it to be. I can only judge it on what it is presented to me. But yeah, there's just not much here. And the pop crap music that they're trying to force onto this, it's okay for what it is, not my style, but yeah, it just kind of grew tiresome over time. And as for her acting, well, I mean, speaking of the other thing that I really hated about this, yeah, there's just no ending here. It just kind of feels, like there's no real end game in mind. I mean, I get maybe trying to set up a sequel, but I don't see it. And it just feels like it just kind of, hit a discernible running time and then just said, all right, good enough. And just kind of left it at that. So, I mean, yeah, there's just not much here, but it's not the worst Shyamalan movie that I've seen. I would still probably put maybe The Happening or Avatar as maybe his worst, but I mean, I don't really count Avatar because that's not my thing at all. But yeah, it's definitely like on the lower end of the scale. I guess it's, if you're like just the absolute diehard, you could probably justify going to the theaters. But yeah, I really can't see this as being any kind of a pressing priority in this, for anyone other than a completist. This is not a priority at all. This is a complete VOD rental or, wait for this to hit Netflix or Hulu at the end of the year or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else to say. Just, suspense thriller than horror, not really, not really tailored to me for this, musical stylings. And it just kind of drags on. There's like not really enough of a story here to justify much of what goes on. So, yeah, at the risk of saying anything else with spoilers, I guess I'll just leave it at that and get it back to you, Mike.
Okay, yeah. So I think with M. Night, one of the trends, at least towards maybe the last 10, 15 years of his career, is I've never really seen him as having much of an issue setting up a story or laying the foundation. Like, okay, here's our story set up, here's our characters. They've all been enough to like kind of keep me invested through the first act and usually somewhere into the second act, but that's usually where they start to fall apart for me. And this one is no exception of that. I will say that I did like Josh Hartnett's performance, not just the is he or isn't he a serial killer aspect, but I did think he did a good job of like trying to be that supportive dad, taking a daughter to a concert that he has probably zero interest in being at, because I can relate to that, having like my oldest is about to be a teenager, and most of the like pop culture stuff she's into, not only is it not my cup of tea, but I've never like heard of it, but like I'll sacrifice obviously to take her to stuff just to see her enjoyment out of it. But like, so the way they kind of played off each other in that aspect, I thought that was well done by him. Now, of course, he had the other layer on top of it because there's even more going on with the setup of this movie. But overall, I thought he did a good job playing kind of like that awkward role. I thought like, man, we got a lot of pop performance. It's like they spent a lot of time on the actual concert. I was kind of shocked by that. And then, yeah, when our actual pop star becomes a bigger part of the movie in other ways, just like, oh no, we're not doing this. And then, of course, Josh Hartnett, like he goes from like your, I guess, run-of-the-mill kind of serial killer type to suddenly he's Houdini and how he's getting out of some of these situations, especially something towards the end, which I'm like, I don't know how he did this without being seen or caught, but whatever. And then when we get to like the twist, which I would say it's not so much a twist in this movie, to me it makes the story fall apart even more, because I think like through the first couple acts, the question is like, okay, how do they even like? Why do they suspect that this guy's going to be at the concert in the first place? Like, what have they pieced it together? And then in the third act, we kind of get the reveal of like why, and it's just like
stupid.
It's stupid and it's annoying, and it's like, if there was this suspicion going on, why would you do it like this? If you were really thinking that this person might be a serial killer, why would you? I don't know. It seems like too big of like, because whatever hints you're trying to give law enforcement, you're still leaving it so vague that it would just be like ridiculous to think that they're actually going to catch the person with this method. Mm-hmm. Because what exactly are you going to be questioning people as they exit that could actually profile? You think it's going to be a standard list of questions that anyone with half a brain is just going to answer honestly, and then they're going to be let go because it's just dumb. I mean, the more you think about it, it's just dumb.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It doesn't make sense. Like the whole time, I'm thinking, why are you avoiding being questioned? Are you not a brilliant serial killer? Are you telling me that you can't answer 4 or 5 questions and look normal? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every well, there are some interesting folks out there that go to these concerts, but I'll say, for the most part, every middle-aged dude there with a daughter is going to probably give the same answer to the police when they're exiting. Yeah, my daughter wanted to see the concert, so I brought her here. Like, what else? What possibly else would they be asking you? Like, it doesn't make sense. And like just grabbing random people out of the crowd to profile them, because like what makes them fit the profile? That they're a dad with a teenage daughter? That would be like every damn dad at the concert. Like, yeah. I don't know. yeah, it's just one of those things where like the premise, it's interesting at the beginning, but I just feel like when they start to get into the more details of the story, it just kind of gets more ludicrous as it goes, and that's a problem. And then yeah, the ending is kind of not a real ending. Maybe it's to set up a sequel, but I hope not. I also heard a pretty interesting theory, but there was no signs of it happening in the movie. I don't really want to. I don't know. It's not really a spoiler because the movie really didn't indicate any of it, but I guess I could just say it. Like someone talked about the theory that like, oh, is this part of his multiverse where like they could have had Bruce Willis's character from Unbreakable as like security at the concert. Now the movie did nothing. Now that's not a spoiler because the movie did nothing to suggest that, but I just thought it was like an interesting thought because of the way he's kind of made that universe through multiple movies. But yeah, don't get me wrong, the movie did nothing to suggest this movie is in that universe, but it was an interesting thought. But anyways, yeah, this movie, I can't really say, like, if you're an M. Night diehard where you just want to see everything he does, go ahead, but otherwise, nah, you can wait for this one to hit streaming for sure. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I am not even sure what else I can add to this that's spoiler free. And honestly, I did want to talk about Mike's point of not really there being a twist in this movie. See, to me, there's a difference between a twist and a reveal. A reveal is something that we get in every movie. Every movie that has some kind of mystery, some kind of unanswered question, you get the reveal at the end. But a twist is usually like a what the fuck moment or a gasp or if you find it stupid, maybe you laugh at it, whatever the case.
It's a reveal that you're not expecting.
Thank you, Don. That's perfect. Exactly. A reveal that you're not expecting. So this movie, in my opinion, does not have a twist. It has a surprising reveal, definitely. But otherwise, that's about it. This movie, I'm not sure where else we can go with this movie that's kind of spoiler free. I mean, honestly, spoilers. I mean, the only spoiler in the movie is the reveal of how the police, figured out that he was going to be there. And that's just pretty damn lame and stupid, in my opinion. I can't really speak on that now, but yeah, I actually have a lot to say about that because it doesn't make sense. But yeah, I don't know, man. You guys got anything else you want to talk about? I know this is not exactly a favorite of any of ours by any stretch, but just give you a chance to complain some more before we get into the quick walkthrough.
I mean, it's not, I do want to say, I mean, normally we say this at the end, but I mean, it's not terrible. It's just not really that interesting.
Exactly. The thing is I'm going to disagree very slightly. I think it is interesting, but it loses that interest. Like whatever element it is that was holding the viewer's interest, around halfway through the movie, you lose it. You lose that interest, and then it just becomes a terrible cat and mouse game. Like for the first half of the movie, it's a good cat and mouse game. For the second half, it's just kind of a terrible, convenient one. It's another one of those situations where everything has to go perfectly for this entire thing to go through, and it's like, no, that's just not how humanity works. I mean, the fact that he was able to sneak through all the different areas of this arena, the fact that he was able to walk through whole groups of police officers, literally walking through, saying hello and excuse me to them, when he has no purpose to be there whatsoever and no one questions him on it. Finally, later in the film, when he goes up to the roof, we finally do get an officer actually ask him what he's doing up there and ask him, for identification and everything else. But throughout the movie, you're just watching it like that's way too convenient. When he took the walkie-talkie from the cops, it's like, really? Not one cop in that room was turned around to look in the direction that you were walking out. Some of the scenarios in here are just too convenient, and you kind of end up rolling your eyes in the theater. It's like, oh, come on, really? That? I don't know. I mean
it's kind of like what I was saying.
Oil, even the oil trap thing that he created, it's like anyone who works with a deep fryer in a fast food restaurant or any kind of restaurant, the instant that they see something in the oil that's not supposed to be there, they turn it off. Instantly, bam, turn it off. This girl literally sat there and stared at it. Like, come on, this is too fucking convenient. Stop that. So yeah, like I said, this movie is not ultra creative. Definitely not the most clever thing that M. Night's done. Like I said, I champion Knock at the Cabin. I that movie did end up in my top 10 that year. I enjoyed that movie greatly. But this one, for as much as I wanted to like it, because it didn't seem like it was going to be a traditional M. Night movie with like a supernatural element and then a big twist at the end, blah, blah, blah. I thought it was going to be a little bit more straightforward, which it is. Ultimately, it is a little bit more straightforward, but like I said, it just falls apart in the third act, at least for me, because I'm not the biggest M. Night Shyamalan fan. I love Sixth Sense. I adore Unbreakable. Unbreakable is my favorite M. Night movie. I know it's weird, but I have a superhero background, growing up with comics and everything. So, it makes sense that Unbreakable is one of my favorites. I loved Split. And like I said already, the aforementioned Knock at the Cabin. So he's been a very hit or miss director for me. Like even at the start of his career, when people were saying that he was untouchable, like I said, Sixth Sense was great. Unbreakable was great. Signs to me is, I personally didn't like Signs that much, other than the one jump scare, which I will fully admit is a brilliant jump scare that is like a top 10 jump scare of all time. But ultimately, the rest of the movie did very little for me, and it ended stupidly. I thought that ending was just retarded. Now, the rest of his career is hit or miss. He does a good movie, he does a bad movie. He does a good movie, he does a meh movie. He does a bad movie, he does a good movie. It's like his consistency is all over the place. Like, and usually his movies are either bad or good. It's rare that they're just kind of middle of the road. I don't think he's done a mid movie like this since Old. I think Old was the last movie that we were all like, it's okay. It's not great, and the ending is kind of stupid, but, and it's the exact same thing we're saying about this movie. Good setup, decent first half, bad third act, So I like Shyamalan because he usually gives us either something brilliant or something just absolutely stupid, and with those movies, I can just ignore them. But movies like this, where they're middle of the road, is where I'm like perplexed that Shyamalan, this guy who's been making movies for almost 30 years now, and this is his police procedural. Like, this was his brilliant, serial killer who can do anything to get away from the cops. It's like, no, it's a reach.
Yeah,
but,
and I feel like in this one, because the setup is so grand and over the top to begin with, it's almost forcing the conditions to become goofy in order to keep up the veneer of like, yes, the FBI is really trying to locate the serial killer with this method, so it just becomes goofy. One positive thing is I didn't know Haley Mills was still alive, to be honest. Like, I mean, I know, I know just doing the math, she would be pretty like old by now if she was still alive, but I just haven't seen her around acting in a good amount of years. So like when the opening credits hit and it said Haley Mills, I was like, wait, is this the same Haley Mills? And then when she's on screen, I was like, holy shit, like she actually looks somewhat good. But her aside, yeah, I feel like the movie just becomes a little goofball with the second act going into the third act. And yeah, I definitely agree. It's not a twist, because what gets revealed does nothing to change the fundamental aspect of what's going on. It's more like, it gives us additional information versus like changes something about like our understanding of the situation. But even the way that's handled, I have major questions about like that whole thing too, because it doesn't quite make sense to me. But
yeah, exactly. Like a twist for this movie would have been something like the wife was actually the killer, and that Josh just spends all his time and assets to cover up for her, and that that's why he's got that guy.
Well, we said last week that the daughter's the killer.
The daughter, same thing. Yeah,
even if it's like a husband-wife team and they both know.
Or if she's in on it, again, that's a twist. But what we get here is not a twist at all.
Once we get to a certain part of the movie, that I thought that was going to be a twist, like.
Yeah. I mean, was I the only one who was thinking that the wife was going to be in on it from one particular scene in this movie? Which,
No,
we'll get.
I was like I was still trying to think of our thing last week where it was the daughter doing it.
Right.
That I still had that, so I never really pictured the wife.
Exactly. No, you're right. But it's later in the film. It's like after he gets arrested, she says something that I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe she's the actual butcher.
Oh, wait a second. Wait, that one conversation after he gets arrested, that's what you're talking about?
Part of it, yeah, and also part of what she's doing when she's alone, like after they take him away and she's supposedly alone in the house, like that.
I don't think I ever thought about it, but I think I know what you're talking about. I can see it.
Yeah,
I don't know
just
if
her attitude too.
I don't know if it would have. I don't know if it would have popped in my mind, but I can see it. I mean, not for me, but I think I know if what I'm thinking of is what you're talking about. I can see it.
Right. That's the thing. I mean, when you're watching a Shyamalan movie, you're waiting for the twist. And while you're watching the movie, you're trying to see if you can predict the twist before it happens. So, yeah, I'm coming up with all these different scenarios, blah, 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 blah. But, yeah, none of them actually ended up coming to fruition because this movie doesn't really have a twist, ultimately. So.
Yeah, the other thing that kind of doesn't make sense is what was the name of the pop star, something Raven?
Lady Raven.
There's a point in the movie where she kind of gets involved, but then when you think about it, it's like, well, we're supposed to think that like, oh, she's smart and she's out cunning the serial killer. But then when you think about it, it's like, but you do realize that like no matter what short-term deal you make with the serial killer, there's no way he can let you live because
exactly
even if you help him get out of the situation, he knows that now know who he like. It just makes no sense. Like
it's zero sense. And absolutely,
I understand. Like in the moment, it's like if you don't do this, this person's gonna die. But it's like, but if I help you, more people are gonna die, and I'm gonna probably die. So like, why? How does it benefit me not to like tell?
Exactly.
But anyways, we can get into more of that in spoilers.
Yeah. All right, folks. So that's going to be your final spoiler warning. If you have not seen Trap and are actually interested in seeing it, go ahead and check it out and come back and listen to the rest of the show to see our more detailed thoughts on the film. And here we go, friends. So our movie opens up with Josh Hartnett, his character Cooper. He is a firefighter, and he is taking his daughter Riley to the Lady Raven concert. When they arrive at the arena and get into the arena, Josh Hartnett's character notices that there's police everywhere, way too many police to just be a normal concert. And then suddenly he starts seeing SWAT team members, like guys in full body armor and assault rifles, and he starts to realize, okay, there's something going on. So at one point, and I'm going to be skipping through a lot of just trivial crap. I'm just going to be going plot point to plot point here. At one point in the film, and this scene is actually portrayed in the trailer, so if you saw the trailer, you know this. When he's out to buy a T-shirt for his daughter, they run out. Should I say they only have one left? And I'm pretty sure this was a plot by Josh Hartnett's character because it kind of gets him in with the T-shirt guy. The T-shirt that his daughter wants, they only have one left. And there's another girl at the table who's been waiting longer. So Josh says to his daughter, well, it seems like she really wants that shirt. Let's just let her have it. And we'll try to get you another one later on, or we'll go to one of the other stands and maybe they'll have the shirt that you want. The daughter agrees. Now the t-shirt vendor sees this and he's like, oh, see, it's so great to see nice people in the world that actually, think about others and everything else. So the vendor tells him, come back here in about 10 minutes and I'll have more of that shirt from storage and, I'll take care of you. Josh pulls the t-shirt guy aside and asks him, basically he introduces himself. The t-shirt guy is named Jamie. And then, of course, Josh asks what's going on with all the police. This is when the T-shirt vendor tells him everything that's going on, that the police were tipped off, that the butcher, and the butcher is the name of the serial killer. That's the name, I guess, that the media gave him in this particular film. Jamie tells Cooper that, the cops are aware that the butcher is going to be here, and they're setting up a trap for him, that this whole concert is basically a trap. Now, what's funny is that some of the movie reviews that I watched were saying that the police created this concert. That is not the case. As you watch the movie, you'll realize that this concert was already set up. I can't really, it would be a little bit of a spoiler right now, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But that is absolutely not the case. The cops did not create this concert specifically to trap this one serial killer. Think about the logistics of that. Think about the cost of that, the millions of dollars it would cost the police department to catch this person, which obviously, as a normal citizen, we think, well, it's worth spending millions to catch serial killers. But when you're talking about the police department, who has an annual budget, I don't think they're going to blow their entire budget in one concert to catch one serial killer, because then they're fucked the whole rest of the year. They have no funding. So, yeah. So just to get that misnomer out of the way. So, of course, you see Josh Hartnett's facial expression change, where he had a big beaming smile on his face. He, like I said earlier, he holds the smile, but you could see his eyes go from like bright and shiny to almost dead. Like there's nothing behind those eyes. And that's him planning. And instantly it just turns into, at that point, it turns into a cat and mouse game, and it turns into The Great Escape, where Josh Hartnett is trying to figure out a way out of this arena, because they are basically questioning every guy at this arena. Now, obviously, there's over 20,000 people at this concert, but it is a pop concert by a female pop star. So, of course, a majority of the concert goers are going to be female. They eventually break it down and say that of the 20,000 plus people in the arena, 3,000 of them are adult men. Obviously, they don't care about teenagers. At least they assume the butcher wouldn't be a teenager, considering what he's doing, because he's basically, they call him the butcher because he dismembers all of his victims. And he leaves them, in public places, just with the body parts kind of just thrown around in no particular order. He's not like setting them up or propping them up or anything. He's just kind of dumping them. So anyway, for the next part of the movie, it's basically Josh Hartnett walking around the arena, getting the lay of the land, trying to find all the emergency exits. But obviously he's finding that all the exits are covered. Finally, he finds out that the only way you're going to be able to get out of this concert is through the backstage area, because the people that are going to be using that backstage area have already been checked in, so they don't need to be checked in again. So then it's a plan of, okay, how do I get my daughter and I backstage? Now, while all this is going on, he's running into a mom of one of his daughter's friends. Now, to give just a quick backstory, his daughter's circle of friends, they all decided to come to this concert together, but they excluded her. They did not invite her for one reason or another, which is why Josh Hartnett is taking his daughter to this concert, because the friends didn't invite her. He runs into Jodie's mom, and this character's name is Jodie's mom. We never actually find out what this woman's name. Even in the credits, she's known as Jodie's mom. Anyway, Jodie's mom sees Cooper, kind of flags him down, tries to apologize for what happened, but Cooper is, just a standard dad. He says, well, no, this isn't something that you can apologize for. I'm very, very upset. I'm a dad who saw his daughter's heart broken by the people that were supposed to be her friends, so I am very upset. The Jodie's mom tries to, make up for it, tries to say that she's going to talk to her daughters and make sure that Riley is included in more things, but that doesn't really seem to appease Josh. And don't forget, at this point in the film, Cooper is already aware that the cops are after him, so he's trying to end this conversation, but she keeps trying to hit him up. Later in the concert, she finds him again and actually gets a little antagonistic with him. One of the funniest lines in the whole movie is when she looks at the butcher and says, "You don't want to mess with me. I have a dark side." This fucking suburban white woman is telling the butcher that she has a dark side. So I did find that mildly chuckle-worthy. But like I said, she's becoming a little bit of a thorn in his side at this concert where he's trying to figure out how to get out, and she keeps flagging him down, trying to apologize for what happened between their daughters when he just doesn't care right now. He's got bigger fish to fry. Okay, at one point, Riley explains to Cooper that at every concert, Lady Raven invites one girl, one fan, up on stage to dance with her during one of her songs. Josh starts looking around and he sees concert staff. And then he finds somebody with spotter on his shirt, and a spotter is usually someone who is going to pick people out of a crowd to either, join the artist on stage, or like in the 80s with groupies, the spotter would be the one who would pick the groupies that would go backstage to hang out with the band, blah, blah, blah. And of course, our spotter is played by M. Night Shyamalan himself, which totally takes me out of the movie for one whole scene, but whatever. Once Josh spots the spotter, he goes up to him and he starts just kind of talking. And it turns out that the spotter is actually Lady Raven's uncle in real life. And Josh is all happy and he says, listen, I want to thank you. I want to tell your niece that we thank her for everything that she's done, the music that she's provided us. And then he starts lying. He starts telling the spotter that, yeah, I see that little girl right there. That's my daughter, Riley. She actually just recovered from leukemia, but she doesn't tell anybody because, she claims that she thinks that she was cursed by God or something, or chosen to be cursed. So basically she doesn't tell anybody that she quote unquote had leukemia. You could see that the spotter instantly, his expression changed, and he's like, I guess that could be they call her the Dream Girl too. The girl that comes up on stage is called the Dream Girl. So what ends up happening is, yes, eventually the spotter does go ahead and walk right up to Josh Hartnett and his daughter in their seats and asks Riley if she wants to be the Dream Girl for the concert. Of course, Riley freaks out. The girls that are sitting next to her at the concert, who weren't her friends before the concert, but are now her friends because, they sat next to each other and they're all big fans. Those girls get all excited and jealous and everything. They bring Riley up on stage, and basically Lady Raven sings a song called Dream Girl. And, Riley's just kind of following the steps. Like, she obviously doesn't have the choreography down, but she definitely is a fan because you can see that she's following some of the steps throughout, probably from the music videos and whatnot. So she gets to perform, and then the song ends, and Riley's pulled off stage. I don't know if this was like the stage manager. There's a woman who's basically giving Josh and Riley their instructions. After Riley comes off stage, they say, okay, you guys can either go back to your seats if you want, or if you want to hang out back here and watch the rest of the concert from the side of the stage, you're welcome to. Josh then asks the stage manager, hey, can we go out the backstage exit so that, we can kind of beat the rush out of here? And the lady's, very accommodating. She's like, oh, absolutely. You can use the backstage exit. No problem at all. While waiting for Lady Raven to come off stage, Josh and Riley are just kind of hanging around. And I forgot to mention that throughout the movie, Josh Cooper is eavesdropping on multiple conversations. Sometimes he's like outside the door of an office. Other times, as we mentioned earlier in the non-spoiler section, he does steal a walkie-talkie from the police, so he's able to listen to the chatter that all the police are, having back and forth. And it's funny because he realizes that the profiler is a lot smarter than he thinks he is, because at one point he's going to set off the fire alarm in the arena, but then he hears over the radio, oh, and guys, or he hears the profiler tell to all the other people on the call, oh, guys, and don't forget, this guy's probably going to try to cause chaos. He's going to try to either call in a bomb threat or set a fire or pull the fire alarm. And instantly, as soon as Josh Hartnett hears that, he takes his hand off the fire alarm. He's like, oh, nope, I'm not going to do that now. So, and like I said, this is just one of the multiple convenient things that happen, doors opening at the exact right time, him able to get the employee ID badge off of Jamie, without Jamie noticing, things like that. So Yeah, there's just, and I'm not going to go over all the convenience that this movie has, because like I said, there's a good dozen of them where just the exact thing that Cooper needs to happen ends up happening. So, and by the way, it was nice to see Kid Cudi in this movie too. Kid Cudi returning to genre fare. I think the last time we saw him was in X, obviously in a much bigger role as the porn star in X. But here he actually plays a gay singer from LA who performs one song with Lady Raven on stage. And he's actually kind of funny because he ends up flirting with Josh Hartnett, which is kind of interesting. You're flirting with a serial killer, but whatever, again. So anyway, they end up waiting next to Raven's dressing room to say thank you to her and, goodbye and everything else. And then they're going to walk out the backstage exit. Well, Josh sees the backstage exit and sees that it's covered with about a dozen SWAT team members just all standing there. So at this point in the movie is where I'm questioning, what are you scared of? You're supposed to be a fucking brilliant sociopathic serial killer. You should be able to answer 4 or 5 questions and be able to get out of there. The only thing I could figure is that earlier in the film, they actually talk about multiple descriptions that they have. They don't have a single description of the butcher. They have like multiple ones, like, Asian man, age 25, senior citizen, an older man, age 60 with white hair. And then they say a good-looking man in his 30s with an animal tattoo on his arm. And then he looks down and he has the smallest, literally it's like the size of a quarter, a tiny little, and I couldn't even tell what the animal was. All I could tell is that it was some kind of 4-legged quadruped, but I couldn't tell if it was like a deer or a dog or a wolf or what. But it's like, do you know how many people have animals tattooed on their arms? I have 2. I have 2 animals tattooed on my arm, much bigger than the tattoos that Josh Hartnett had. So it's like, I don't understand what the fuck he was so scared of. It's not like he had any weapons on him. It's not like he had any, bloody gloves or, a knife on him or anything. He's at a concert with his daughter. Like, why couldn't you just walk out the front door, answer the questions that they have for you, and then leave? Because even if they search your house, you don't do anything at your house. This is the type of serial killer that has safe houses, and that's where he does his killing. So he doesn't do anything at his own house. So even if they would have followed you home and searched your home, they would have found nothing. I don't understand why he was so scared to just walk out the exit, but there you go. He didn't want to have to answer any questions. Okay, so finally, like I said, he sees that there's SWAT team members at the backstage exit. Lady Raven comes out of her dressing room, gives them a bag of like goodies, t-shirts and shit like that. And, basically says, thank you so much for coming out. I really love Riley. She's an angel. And then Cooper asks Lady Raven if he can have a moment with her privately. Like he says, you know about my daughter's condition, right? And you know that she doesn't really talk to people about it. Can we speak privately for a second? Lady Raven concedes. They go into her dressing room, and then this is where Josh changes character completely. At this point, he's no longer Cooper. He is the butcher. He basically tells Lady Raven, listen, I think you guys are looking for me. Or I think you're looking for me. And she's like, what? I'm not looking for anyone. And he's like, no. I think everyone here is looking for me. And then he pulls up his phone and he shows the security video of the kid that he currently has in captivity that he's going to kill, later tonight or whenever. Lady Raven looks at this and you see her instantly, start showing that fear in her face. She realizes that she's face to face with the butcher in a room with no one else in it. It's literally just them. So Cooper says to her, okay, here's what's going to happen. You are going to offer my daughter and I a ride in your limo out of this arena, and then you're going to drop us off when we get out of here. If you either tell anyone who I am or try to escape, or don't, give us the request to ride in the limo with you, I'm going to kill this kid with a carbon monoxide bomb that I have set up at the place, where he's keeping this kid captive. Basically, he's got like a remote control on his phone where he can set off a carbon monoxide bomb and basically suffocate the kid. He basically says, and this is, going back to Mike's point, it's like, why would she believe anything that he says? It's like, that kid's probably going to die anyway. And even if he doesn't, it's going to take a minor miracle to save him. But she eventually she does concede. She invites Riley and Cooper into her limo. As soon as they're out of the arena and out of the police blockade around the arena, Josh basically says, okay, you could drop us off at the next corner. Thank you very much for everything. My car is parked here, because don't forget, they drove to the arena. But then Lady Raven instantly is like, oh, why don't I drop you off at your house? And I'm just like, literally, my eyes crossed. I'm like, what the fuck are you thinking about? You literally can get out. You could literally drop him off at the corner and then tell your limousine driver who he is. He then will call the police and they will start their manhunt, because, they've got him on camera because his daughter was on stage. Not that Cooper was on stage, but he was on the side of the stage. So I guarantee he got caught on some video footage. But no, instead of just dropping him off and calling the police, she decides, I'm going to drop you off at your house. And what's funny is that Cooper never ever says, but wait a minute, my car is here. Like, that's the perfect excuse to not get driven home. My car is at the arena. If you drive me home, how the hell am I do I have to take an Uber to get back to my car? That's stupid. But no, he literally doesn't make a big argument. He tries to be polite and say, oh, you don't have to do that. I know Riley's a big fan, but you're busy, blah, blah, blah. Of course, Riley gets excited because Lady Raven, her favorite pop star, is potentially going to walk into her house. And that's exactly what happens. They end up driving all the way to Cooper's house, leaving his car wherever that arena was, which, again, whatever. And then literally they go into the house. They walk into the house. They're introduced to the mom, Cooper's wife, and then their youngest son. It turns out that they have a younger son as well. And she's in the house and she's just kind of talking and with the family. And then she notices that there's a piano in the house. And she's like, hey, why don't I perform a song? Why don't I play a song for you guys? And then she asks Riley, what's her favorite song? Riley tells her what the song is. And she ends up performing the song right there. Now, what's funny is that just before she performs the song, she asks Riley to come sit on the piano bench right next to her. And Riley is the type of teenage girl that never leaves her phone. Her phone is in her hand pretty much 24/7. So when Riley comes over and sits next to her on the bench, at the piano bench, you see Lady Raven grab her phone, secretly, obviously, grab her phone and like put it in her pocket. So like Riley, so that Riley can't find her phone later. They perform the song. When the song is done, Riley looks down and she can't find her phone. Lady Raven basically says, do you want a selfie with me? Do you want to take a couple of pictures? As soon as Riley realizes that her phone is missing, Lady Raven literally just snatches Cooper's cell phone, the phone that she saw his latest victim, in captivity. She literally grabs the phone out of his hand and runs to the guest bathroom, which is right there adjacent to the living room. Cooper instantly starts getting mad at her. Give me my phone. What are you doing with my phone? Obviously, the family doesn't know that he's the butcher, and they don't know why Lady Raven is being so friendly and hanging out in this house. So he's getting mad, but he's, not going psychotic yet. And then finally, she goes into the guest bathroom. She turns on the phone, and apparently there's a feature on the phone where she can see the guy who's in captivity, and it actually has a microphone, so she can actually speak to him. So she starts asking the guy, what's your name? Turns out the guy's name is Spencer. He's like 25 years old or something. And she asks him, what do you remember about where you are? Are you in a house? Are you in a warehouse? And he's like, I don't know. He blindfolded me on the way here, but there was a hole in the blindfold. And he starts listing off things that he remembers from the ride to where he's being held captive. He says he remembers seeing a lion statue that was broken. A piece of it was broken off. And then less than a mile after that, I was taken into a house with a blue door. And that's pretty much all he remembers. At that point, Lady Raven goes on social media, and you got to figure a pop star like Lady Raven, at least in this world, probably has millions of followers on social media. So she instantly does a live video, and she starts asking her followers, I'm in trouble, I need help. Do any of you live near a broken lion statue? And if any of you are aware of a broken lion statue in a park somewhere, are you aware of a blue door near, that broken statue? Eventually, one of her fans comes up and says, yeah, I know that broken statue. I live right next to it. And I know the blue door you're talking about because I live in a neighborhood where there's only one place with a blue door and it sticks out like a sore thumb. And when we finally do see the house, it's true. The blue, like the whole neighborhood is all gray and concrete. And then it's just this one bright blue door sticking out, like basically advertising, hey, knock here. There's something inside. So eventually, Cooper takes his family, takes them upstairs, locks them in Riley's bedroom. We don't see this, mind you. We find out later that he did this. And then he comes back down to the bathroom, but this time he has a key. He has a way to get into the bathroom. He opens up the bathroom door, walks in, and very calmly just says, give me my phone. Just very calmly, give me my phone. Then suddenly he grabs his phone and he looks at the video feed, the security camera feed. He looks at it and he freaks out. His face changes expression. He turns the phone and shows it to Lady Raven. And we, the audience, see that Spencer's gone. His shackles have been broken and there's nobody in the room anymore. Literally, Spencer has been spared. At this point, Cooper knows, between a pop star knowing that I'm the serial killer, my latest victim getting away, and now me having to lock my family into the fucking... I forgot to mention, the reason that he locks his family in Riley's bedroom is because Lady Raven screams through the closed bathroom door, Cooper is the butcher, your husband is the killer, he's the one, he's trying to kill me, he's trying to quiet me. Obviously, the family doesn't know, what to think of this. Then that's when he takes his family upstairs and puts them in Riley's bedroom. Eventually, he sees, that Spencer has been freed. And then he's like, well, you fucked up, Lady Raven, because now, I can't let you go. So he basically takes Raven, puts her in his car, in his wife's car, not his car, because there's actually kind of a funny exchange where the girl says that most serial killers drive black cars because they supposedly look cleaner. And Cooper kind of chuckles. It's kind of funny because he actually does drive a black car, as we saw at the beginning of the movie. So it's kind of interesting. So he ends up throwing Raven in his wife's car, getting in the car, telling her, well, I'm going to have to take you to a safe house and do what I didn't really want to do. He opens up the garage door. When the garage door opens, I'm fully expecting a full SWAT team to be waiting for him there. Instead, it's his family. His wife and his two kids are standing in front of the car, preventing him from being able to get out of there with Lady Raven. So eventually, the wife basically says, we're not moving. You're not leaving here with her. He starts to, I don't want to say freak out, but he freezes a little bit and he starts to think. While he's deep in thought, Lady Raven is able to slip out of the car and out of the garage and joins the family. So at this point is when the SWAT team finally shows up, the police show up. Cooper closes the garage door, so now he's in his house by himself. The house is now completely surrounded by police. And he's basically, we see him, and I forgot to mention, but I think it probably goes without saying, most serial killers do have OCD. And throughout the film, we see Josh straightening towels, picking up a bicycle off the ground and putting it up on its kickstand. Like he's very anal retentive and has OCD. So we see him doing stuff in the house, like he sweeps up some glass that was broken during the altercation with Lady Raven. He basically picks up the house a little bit, leaves it clean, and then the police charge in. They break down the front door. When they get into the house, though, they can't find him. He's gone, completely gone. And then they mention that they found a secret tunnel in one of the kids' bedroom. Apparently, there's a tunnel that leads under his house and comes out a hole in the neighbor's yard. So again, this guy has elements of brilliance, but then other times he's a fucking idiot. Like, I still think he's an idiot for even involving Lady Raven in any way in this plot. It doesn't make any sense, but... So eventually the police get in the house. They realize that he's gone, but no one outside the house realizes that he's gone yet. So we see Lady Raven get back into her limo, and her limo driver leaves with her in there. After a couple of minutes of driving, the limo pulls over in a very quiet, dark neighborhood. There's no foot traffic, no other cars around. And the driver comes out of the limo, goes to the back, and it's fucking Cooper. Somehow, Cooper, another one of these things that seems almost impossible, but somehow Cooper was actually able to get out of his house and get into a limousine surrounded by police officers. And Lord knows what he did with the actual limo driver. Like, we don't see the limo driver again, so I don't know if he actually killed him or what, but the limo driver's gone, and basically Cooper goes back to the back of the limo, grabs a pair of handcuffs. Oh, right, because he's dressed like a SWAT team member. That's what it is. He's dressed like that's how he was able to get out of his house. He probably took out one of the SWAT team members, took the outfit, and then got out, because he's literally driving a limo dressed as a SWAT team member. Here's another decision that I have no idea what the fuck he was thinking about. He decides to drive her handcuffed in the back of the limo, drive her through a very populated area with heavy traffic, lots of foot traffic. It's almost like he's going right back near the arena, because it seems like it's a bunch of young people that would be fans of Lady Raven. At one point, she's able to reach far enough to the window to hit the window open button. The window opens up, and then people outside the limo see that it's Lady Raven, and she's like, help me, please help me. I'm being held captive. Hartnett, Cooper, notices instantly that the window's open, closes it, and then locks it. A lot of newer cars have that button that lock windows in the back seat. So, I mean, he basically locks up the windows. But at this point, it's too late. The fans who saw that Lady Raven was in there, they start yelling that, oh my God, Lady Raven's in there. So literally all of her fans surround the limo. They're not letting the limo go. Literally, it's just civilians, just young kids surrounding the limo. Finally, the SWAT team gets there. Just as the SWAT team is getting there, Lady Raven is able to get out of her handcuffs. She's able to break the bar that she's handcuffed to. She's able to break it off, and then she slips out of the limo. All of her fans are surrounding her, taking pictures of her. She's just trying to get away from Cooper, obviously, because she's fucking nervous about it. So finally, the SWAT team shows up. They surround the limo. They see someone in the driver's seat dressed as a SWAT team member. So they think it's him. They literally say, like, I've never seen police do this. They literally, they put their gun sights, their laser sights on him, and they say, we're not going to come near the car. We're not coming near the car. You're going to come out. And if you don't come out, we're shooting you. So literally, they get no response from the guy in the limo. They shoot a couple of rounds into the limo. They go into the limo and realize that he's gone. He's completely gone. And what had happened was, you guys remember earlier when I said Lady Raven gave them a bag of goodies, like T-shirts and shit? As it turns out, he went ahead and put on one of the Lady Raven hoodies that was in the bag, left the SWAT team outfit propped up in the front seat of the limo. And I'm pretty sure this is what Mike was talking about earlier. How the fuck did he get out of that limo? It was surrounded by fans. There's literally zero chance that he could have gotten out of that limo. I mean, literally zero chance. But there it is. He gets out. We see him actually walking away from the crowd, wearing a Lady Raven hoodie. And then we go back to Cooper's house, where Cooper's wife is there with the profiler, which I've barely said anything about the profiler in the walkthrough because she's barely a factor in this movie. Like, we meet her early on, and we get little bits of exposition from her. One thing I forgot to mention in my general thoughts that I kind of wanted to mention is that this movie feels like a video game in the sense of how the exposition is delivered. Most specifically, Jamie, the t-shirt vendor. He comes off as an NPC in a video game that their literal job is to just give exposition to the main character. Like, he's literally sitting there like, yeah, this is a trap. The police know that he's going to be here, and they're going to try to trap him and arrest him, blah, blah, blah. And it comes off like a video game cutscene. I couldn't get over it, but yeah. And there's other elements of this movie that feel like a video game as well. Some of the convenient aspects of, some of the events that happen that are convenient throughout definitely feel like a video game. So anyway, at this point, we're back at Cooper's house. The profiler is there talking with his wife. The wife is all, I had no idea. She's distraught. The kids have been sent to her sister's house. So the kids are not there at the house. It's literally just the profiler and Cooper's wife. Eventually, the profiler leaves and says, I'm going to leave a police unit outside to protect you 24/7 until we finally catch your husband. Eventually, she's in the kitchen by herself. This is where I start to think that she's in on it because she's not crying at all. Like, I'm pretty sure if my wife of 28 years found out that I was actually a serial killer, there's going to be some tears involved. But, like, she's just sitting there in the kitchen, just kind of relaxing. And I'm thinking, this is where I start to think, oh, shit, is she in on it? Or is she the actual killer? And it's going to turn out that Hartnett was just covering for her and that he's, not actually the butcher, whatever. But nope, as it turns out, Cooper ends up showing up, sitting right at literally sitting at the dining room table, literally minutes after the profiler walked out of the house. And he's sitting there, and then this is where we get our reveal. Not our twist, but our reveal. We find out that the reason that the police knew that the butcher was going to be at this concert is because they found a receipt for concert tickets at one of his hideouts. Now, my friends, I've bought tickets for other people. Just because I have the receipt for the tickets in no way implies that I would be going, especially in this situation. Like, did the police think that Cooper was actually a Lady Raven fan? Like, wouldn't it make more sense that he bought tickets for his daughter and her friends for them to go? Like, the police spend all this money to have what seems like hundreds of police officers at this arena, added security, added cameras, just everything. And the only thing they're going on is that they found a receipt for the concert tickets at one of his hideouts. That's bullshit. I'm sorry, but there is no police department on this fucking planet that would find a receipt for concert tickets and then go on a multi-million-dollar fucking trap to get this guy, at the concert. It just makes zero sense. So, yeah, I'm sorry, Shyamalan. You didn't try very hard on this one because that's just dumb. To think, okay, he's got a receipt. So that's like if you find a McDonald's receipt in my car, it's a guarantee I'm going to be back at that same McDonald's the very next day. Doesn't make any fucking sense. So there you go. Now, Cooper and his wife start talking, and it comes out that she thought he was cheating on her. Because she said that he would disappear at all hours of the night, and sometimes he would be gone for a whole day. And obviously he's a firefighter, so firefighters have 3 days on, 4 days off, where they actually stay, or maybe it's 4 days on, 3 days off, where they actually stay at the firehouse. not in their own houses. They stay at the firehouse for 24 hours a day for like 3 or 4 days straight. But she's claiming that, he was distant, that sometimes, she would disappear and she wouldn't know where he went. So she actually said that she followed him one day, thinking that she was following him to another woman's house. What ends up happening was he followed her to one of his safe houses. Now, fortunately, this particular safe house isn't one that he does any killing at. He does planning, and it's where he goes just to kind of clear his head and plan out his next murder or whatever. So it's not like the wife saw any victims or weapons or anything. She ends up seeing that he goes into this building, stays in there for a couple of hours, then comes out and goes home. So she decides that she's going to go to that same place on another day when he's not there. She goes there and she breaks into the safe house. And what she sees is literally the entire apartment or room or whatever, the space. Literally the only thing in there is a table and a chair. So that's where she starts to think, wait a minute, he's not cheating on me. He's doing something else. And this is where she starts to get the inclination that he might be the butcher. And what does she do to try to confirm her fears, either confirm or deny her fears that he's the butcher? She takes the receipt from the concert tickets that he just bought for him and his daughter, and she leaves the receipt at the safe house. As it turns out, Cooper never went back to that safe house. After that last day that his wife saw him there, he decided it probably wasn't safe anymore, and he never went back to that safe house. And he knew without a shadow of a doubt he did not leave the receipt anywhere out where anybody would. Don't forget, he is a meticulous OCD serial killer. It doesn't make sense that he would make that kind of mistake, despite all the other mistakes he's made in this movie. So yeah, there it is. We get the reveal that it was the wife who tipped off the police and to the fact that he might be at that concert, that the butcher might be at that concert. So of course, Cooper basically says, well, obviously I can't let you live, and I can't believe that this whole thing is going to end in such a cliche manner, murder-suicide. So he basically announces to her that he's going to kill his wife and then kill himself before the police who are outside in the squad car come in and stop him. So he's going to kill her and then kill himself. Classic murder-suicide to end the story of the butcher. But I'm going to give the wife credit because she actually thought ahead. Just right after he says that he's going to commit the murder-suicide, she tells him, well, stop first. We have to finish the pie that we bought for Riley's birthday, which is a weird thing to say, but obviously, and as soon as she says it, horror movie viewers, our gears are going, and it's like, oh, I think I know what's happening. So she takes the last 2 pieces of pie, chocolate cream pie that they have there. She serves up the last 2 pieces, and they both eat it. They both eat their pieces of pie. As soon as Cooper is done with his pie, he looks down at the plate, and he notices some kind of white powdery substance. A lot of it, actually. Like, how he missed it before he ate the piece of pie is fucking beyond me. Because it literally looks like somebody dumped a bag of flour on the plate and then put the piece of pie on top of it. Anyway, as it turns out, she found this powder in his bag. She found his bag of, his murder tools. She found that the drug, and she decided to use it on him. Now, I think she thought that it was going to kill him, that it was poison. As it turns out, it was just a mild sedative. It's something that he uses just to calm the victim down so that he can do his thing, without a victim thrashing around and, trying to scratch at his eyes or whatever, So he doesn't die, he doesn't get poisoned, but he does get tired. He doesn't quite pass out. But we see that he starts to slow down. Like when he goes to pick up the meat cleaver that he had in his hand earlier, he's kind of having trouble holding it up. So at that moment, he starts to see a hallucination of his mother. As it turns out, we didn't really give too much backstory about this guy. As it turns out, he was abused by his mother when he was young. But all throughout the movie, we hear the story, not all throughout, but through periodic moments in the movie, we hear about the mistreatment that he got from his mother. And, how amazing it is that he was able to grow up and be an upstanding citizen despite his childhood. As it turns out, mom knew that he was a fucking serial killer. They don't really get into it, like whether he was killing animals or, whatever it was that he was doing. But mom apparently knew that he was a serial killer. So rather than try to nurture him and love, that aspect of him out of him, she goes the opposite direction and becomes violent, and she becomes a disciplinarian. And she basically beats him constantly in the hopes of beating the serial killer out of him. Of course, most of us know that that's never going to work. So, like I said, after he's been drugged, he sees a hallucination of his mother, and his mother basically says, I always knew what you were, and I always accepted you. I never tried to judge you. I did try to change you only for your own good. This is all hallucination, mind you. And then finally she says, come here and let me see you one last time. So he starts walking towards the front door. As soon as he gets out to the front room, like he comes out of the kitchen and he's now in the front room, we see 2 police officers taser his ass, one on each side of him. They taser him. Unfortunately, they're not able to knock him out. Obviously, he's a psycho killer, so he's going to be, extra strong. And he ends up tackling one of the police officers while he's getting tasered, mind you. Tackles one of the police officers and jams his thumbs into both of the police officers' eyes. I can only assume that killed the police officer. But then suddenly, from the door, we see the image of his mother suddenly change to the profiler. It was the profiler that was talking to him the whole time under the guise of being his mother. Because don't forget, the profiler has studied everything about him. She probably knew that because of the relationship that he had with his mother, that she might be able to trick him a little bit by doing this thing. Or potentially she was in on the whole drugging plot too. Like maybe that wasn't just the wife by herself who thought of that. Maybe the profiler and the wife collectively said, okay, we're going to do this. And, try to catch him alive, because it's very obvious the police don't want to kill this guy. They're using nothing but tasers on him. They're not shooting him, which is he literally kills a police officer in his living room floor, and they're still not shooting him. They're still tasing him. So they very obviously want to take him in. So finally, when the profiler walks in the front door, she also has a taser and tases him. And finally, that's enough to get him down. He ends up passing out, falling to the floor, and he ends up getting shackled, arms and legs around his waist, everything. They did a Hannibal Lecter job on him, basically making sure that he wasn't going to get away. As he's walking through his front yard, he sees his daughter's bike on the ground turned to its side, like it fell over. It's not up on a kickstand. So he tells the police, oh, excuse me, let me just take care of this real quick. As soon as he takes a step towards the bike, the cops all lift up their weapons and they're all pointing at him. The wife yells out, don't shoot him, don't shoot him. He has OCD. And we see him pick up the bike, put it on the kickstand, check the pedals, like he does like a quick diagnostic almost to make sure that the bike is okay for his daughter. Once he's convinced that the bike is fine and it's up on the kickstand, then he continues his walk to the paddy wagon. And then this is our final scene. Basically, in the paddy wagon, we see him there just kind of contemplating the events of the day and what got him there. And then we see him pull one of the spokes from the bicycle out of his sleeve. Apparently he broke off one of the spokes, which again seems impossible because I watched that scene very closely and I don't see him grab anything, but whatever, I'll allow it. He pulls the spoke out of his sleeve. He undoes all of his shackles, his hand chains, the ones on his feet, everything. He fixes his hair, and then he just looks into the camera and smiles. And then movie goes black, and that's the end of our film. So I don't know what to think of this anymore. After talking about it now, I think I like it even less somehow. And especially this ending. Like, what is the end game here? Like, as soon as they open that door, they're going to be armed. You know, this is the fucking butcher. This isn't just some random criminal. They're treating this guy like he's public enemy number one. So as soon as they open the back of that paddy wagon, they're just going to mow him down. As soon as they see that he's out of his shackles, they're going to mow him down. I started to think maybe that was his ploy. Maybe he has no interest in going to jail, so he's trying to figure out any way he can get to die, suicide by cop, if you will, So that I started to think that maybe he wants to die, but we don't find out. Literally, he undoes the chains, and the movie fades to black, and that's the end of it. So your guess is as good as mine as to what his end game is going to be, because I don't think there's any way. I mean, hell, we didn't think there was any way out of the limousine. He found a way out of the limousine. We didn't think there was any way out of a house surrounded by police officers, and he found a way out of the house. So maybe he does find a way out of this situation as well. But it's just not very satisfying. Like I said, I walked out of the theater not being very satisfied, and I'm going to leave my thoughts at that. Back to Mike.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna guess that this movie's not getting a sequel, but you never know. I mean, once he did kind of the Unbreakable universe, I guess it's not out of the question that there has to be. Well, I'm not gonna say there has to be, but it feels like there's an intention leaving it kind of open ended like that. It could just be like it's one of those ideas in his head where he's like, never say never, but it's not in the plans necessarily.
Yeah,
but exactly. Who knows? Because there's you don't end the movie like that because there's zero chance of a sequel, even if it's not probable or likely.
Exactly.
So,
oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention there is a mid-credit scene, a somewhat funny mid-credit scene too. Basically, we see Jamie, the T-shirt vendor, at his house, and he's watching the news. And the news report comes up that the butcher has been caught, and it turns out he's a firefighter named Cooper. Instantly, Jamie's like, oh my God, I helped the butcher. I can't believe it. He tricked me and I helped him. And he gets up and he calls out to his wife, and then it fades to black again. So I thought that was kind of funny, because I mean, that's got to make him feel like shit. Even though he almost seemed excited about it. Not excited like he was happy, but like, I don't know, like very animated about the fact that he helped the butcher. Like, yeah, it was kind of funny. I like that. It was very similar to Lil Rel showing up at the end of Get Out. It was just a funny little add-on. I liked it.
Pretty much, yep. All right, so that's going to wrap up our discussion on Trap and this episode of Fresh Cuts. But we might have new stuff for people to listen to. Venom, anything on your end?
I'm pretty sure that, I mean, we mentioned it last week because it was the first week that it was out, but yeah, No More Room in Hell presents Creature Comforts. Episode 28 is now available, where we looked at the creature from the Black Lagoon, had a nice conversation about that one, nice quick episode. Our next episode, we're actually going to be traveling to the Far East for our next episode, but we'll still keep the movie under our hat for now. And that episode will probably come out sooner than later. As far as the Crystal Lake Gift Shop, episode 5 is still the latest episode, but we now have plans to record episode 6 in the coming week. So, fingers crossed that actually happens, and we'll get episode 6 out sooner than later. Same thing with Creature Comforts. Because it's early enough in the month, the episode will definitely be out in August. It is just a matter of the three of us getting together and discussing our latest movie. I'll leave the main show to Mike because I know we have a new episode of the main show available. And that's pretty much it for me.
Okay, how about you, Don?
Yeah, as mentioned, latest episode of Creature Comforts is available. I know what we're doing for the next episode, as mentioned, but we'll just keep that to ourselves until release. I did join, like I said, I think they're called the Paranormal is the New Normal Network. We did a roundtable discussion on top 50 serial killer movies. So it's kind of like a March Madness bracket / like general discussion kind of a thing. So whittle down some of our favorite serial killer movies and whittle them down until there's one left. I'll leave everything for you to discover on your own. They're mainly available on YouTube. I don't know if it's available on most other platforms. I've worked with them once in the past, and I don't really know much about them, but they're available under Paranormal is the New Normal. So, go ahead and check for that. I wish I knew more, but I don't know these guys that well, so I can't say for sure. NFW, series of shark shows are available, starring yours truly. I think we've only got one more left to record, at least as the time that we record this episode. There's one left, but I think we've recorded 5. So there's 3 available now, and I think there's 2 more to release, and then the upcoming one. So go ahead and check that out. And then, as mentioned again, Season 3 of Horror Countdown is available. No new episodes planned, but hopefully by the new year that will change as I get more guests towards the end of the year. But yeah, I guess that will be it for now.
Okay, so yeah, main show, No More Room in Hell, covering Demons and Demons 2 with Lacey Liu as the guest is out. And the only other really thing I have to announce is I recorded the last episode, at least that I'm taking part in, for this year's Horror Head-to-Head for Duncan's podcast Under the Stairs. It's kind of like a replacement for Summer Series, which the official Summer Series is returning next summer. So I think this was kind of like a fill-in series he's doing. But then he also said that this series is going to continue too. So we'll see how that goes. But it's basically like Duncan and then 4 other people covering movies from a different director, and kind of like somewhat of like a courtroom setting where each person's assigned a movie and we either endorse it or bash it and give it grades based on different aspects like story, effects, kills, blah, blah, blah. And the reason I'm announcing it now is because he mentioned at the end of our recording that he's actually going to start releasing them, I think, at the end of this coming up week, because he's been recording the episodes, I think, over the past 2 months, just because you know how that goes. Getting 5 people together for a show, it's like it's scheduled here, now it's not, then this and that and the other. So finally, I think today was like the last one he has to record, period. So they're going to start being released in the month of August. So I think the first one I recorded a couple months ago, I think that is one of the first ones to actually be released. So once that happens, I'll actually probably post a link to it on the group page so everyone can find it easily. Other than that, I ain't got nothing. But next episode, I'm guessing we're doing Cuckoo, since that's a wide release.
Romulus is. I thought Romulus was first.
Now Romulus is like the 16th, I think, or whatever that Friday is.
No, you're right.
Oh, it's okay. I thought Romulus. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Cuckoo on the 9th, Romulus on the 16th. And then there might actually be one other release in August too. I just can't remember, but I know for sure we got the last 2 weeks. That
James McAvoy movie that I don't want to watch.
Oh, the Speak No Evil remake.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's end of August. End of August, early September, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, and I think that Hugh Grant one's coming out soon as well.
That one I'm mildly interested in, but yeah, the McAvoy one, I don't know. Just doesn't look all interesting.
I don't know how or what we're doing as far as the Beetlejuice sequel, if that even qualifies for this, but that's like either the first or second week of September, I think. But we'll worry about. I mean, we've got time.
Yeah.
For that. So we'll figure that out down the road. But other than that, that's going to do it. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We will be back next week with another episode. Let's say bye to our listeners.
Later.
I feel like if Riley was a metalhead, the Butcher wouldn't have been caught, because if you go to your average metal concert with 20,000 plus attendees, about 19,500 of them are going to be men. So I'm gonna blame Riley for liking pop music.
Yeah, and they probably inadvertently catch like other serial killers.
That's awesome. Yep.
All right, peace.